Exactly that. Where are the growing markets? I'm delighted to now hand over to the CEO of the European Cyclists Federation, who will now moderate the panel. Please give me a loud round of applause for Jill Warren. Ding, ding, ding. Let me get her.
Hear me okay? Good, okay. I hope you're all enjoying the EUROBIKE and that you've met some interesting people and seen some interesting things. I certainly have. I'm very excited about this session because growth in the cycling industry is something that will help all of us and something that certainly as advocates at the European Cyclists Federation, we help engineer through what we do, working closely together with industry. And we've got a very exciting panel today of 4 people who, from different perspectives, will talk about how they see growth happening, because we know that the growth in our industry or the growth in cycling probably isn't going to come from the Netherlands or Denmark or parts of Germany or places where the market is still pretty well saturated. I mean, people might buy a 3rd, 4th, or a 5th bike, and certainly I have too many bikes to count, as a lot of people here do. But we want to hear how this is happening in different areas. So I am so pleased to introduce, first of all, Mark Anderman. He is the head of cycling at Sporting Insights. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
We have Marie-Céline Tandieu, the Director General of Investments at Business France. We have Łukasz Kwosz, the Deputy Director of Municipal Services at the City of Gdansk in Poland. And we have Agne Vaiciukevičiūtė, and I hope I pronounced it more or less correct, the Deputy Minister of Transport and Communications from Lithuania. Welcome. So, please take a seat. So, I'd like to start by hearing from Mark Anderman, the head of cycling from Sporting Insights. Mark, what you do, you look at markets from a more holistic perspective, from a more global perspective, and so you've got this overview that maybe you can share with us about where you see the growth coming from.
Absolutely, Jill. I work within CIE, Cycling's Industry Europe, within a market intelligence group where we share data amongst other data providers, EcoCounter, which have counts across the whole of Europe, Fluctuo, which have their bike share index, and we also produce pan-European surveys. What's really interesting is in the latest figures from EcoCounter show a +3% increase in ridership in Q1 in Europe for 23 versus 24. However, if you compare that to 2019, there's a 16% increase across the whole of Europe, which is really important. When you look at the key countries within that, the leaders are France, Poland, and Italy, 39, 38, 37% increase in ridership from 2023 to 2019. So again, those countries have really had significant growth during that time frame, which is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Added to that, Fluctuo in their bike share index have had a +50% share in dockless bikes across the whole of Europe. The reason I mention this is that the bike share schemes are so important in encouraging new cyclists into the activity and using it as an urban tool. Through the CIE consumer
or a gateway
research,
drug even.
Through the CIE research is that bike share, there's 3 times more likely new cyclists come and use cycling as a transport. So that's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that overview. Those are some really impressive numbers about the growth that we've seen from pre-pandemic to right now. And Marie-Céline, France is something I'm inspired by every day when I see what's happening on the industrial side, what's happening on the civil society side, the national cycling strategy that's been so instrumental in, really catalyzing more cycling in France. Tell us a bit about what you do in your role, what's happening in France, what can we all take as inspiration from that?
Thank you, Jill. I'm CEO of Business France, which is the national agency in charge of helping French SMEs to export and to attract investment in France. So we have quite an interesting view on the market of the cycling industry. What I would like to say is there is not one bike, but many bikes. And what we see in France is the diversity of the use of bikes. I would say three kinds of use that are growing in the French market. First is home to work. And we have lots of companies now that are encouraging the use of bikes to come to work. And there is even a subsidy for employers to encourage the people to come on the soft mobility to work. And we have representatives of Dunkirk here in the room. And we have in the Dunkirk port some companies encouraging people not to use the car, but cycling. Then you have leisure, of course, the development of leisure and tourism in France. We have, of course, the Tour de France, as everybody knows here, but the development of path, 70,000 kilometers of path in France, and you have the La Loire à vélo, many paths that are encouraged. And now we have another trend coming up in France, it's the delivery, last mile. And lots of companies now are thinking on how you can go to the city center, because there is an encouragement of zero emission zones, so that you have to stop lorry in front of the outside of the cities. So this is a whole policy that the French government is encouraging, to have cycling not only on one aspect of the cycling activity, but all those different cycling. So that makes the cycling market raising, because you don't need one kind of bike, but you need one for every kind of use. And you see that 2 million bikes have been sold in 2023 in France, because there is really this new trend to have more bikes in France.
Yeah, so a very holistic approach to the whole, I think, cycling ecosystem and looking at all times.
Ein sehr umfassender Ansatz. Da wird auf
About that later. I mean, one thing I was quite inspired by at the European level when I saw how countries were applying to spend the recovery and resilience funds a couple of years ago. I think France was one of the only ones that allowed, you know, these kind of premiums for the electrification of vehicles. They also allowed these premiums to apply to the purchase of an e-bike. You know, rather than, which is something we would like to have seen everywhere, but okay. Let's move to, I'd like to skip down to Lithuania now, before I go to Łukasz, just to stay at a national level before I go to him. So, Agne, my understanding is that Lithuania, for the first time, has introduced a national cycling strategy recently, and that we are definitely, you know, and that for the first time last year there was a national cycling conference. It's definitely getting more attention at that national level. And how do you see that, you know, catalyzing and improving the growth of cycling in your country?
It's good? It's good. Okay, sorry. I do not hear. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to speak in this conference. I really I'm happy of being here to better understand the cycling market in general and what's happening there. Because in Lithuania, you were right, we just adopted the Lithuanian cycling strategy, national strategy. And I think within the last 4 years, we created everything from strategy to plans to maps with dedicated financial resources. So we're looking into this process as a very long and but together very inspiring for the whole country. And we see immediately how the fashion catch-ups on cycling for daily basis. So our main focus obviously comes from the Green Deal objectives. We need to find the ways to work more on reaching our jobs, smaller distances via different transport modes. And I have colleagues from Vilnius, capital municipality, and Vilnius is definitely leader in Lithuania of what they are doing in on this topic. And the Vilnius recently tripled the amount of cyclists in the city. And obviously one of the main bases for that was infrastructure. Vilnius already almost have the full network for cyclists, and what is very important that to understand that Lithuania is obviously, as Poland before, is very driven, by cars. It's like we love our cars for sure. So to see that in Vilnius you can see traffic jams of cyclists is something very unique. So what we see and what we can prove by very good example is that when the infrastructure is in place, cyclists catching up. And then you can, as in France, think of the subsidies, all the holistic approach together, not only from the infrastructure point of view, plans, but education, as well as subsidies for cyclists, for businesses to encourage it. So the whole ecosystem is very important. My job is to do it on the national scale, and it's definitely much more difficult, but with all the tools in place, we think that we create a very good basis for the next 10 to 20 years. And the last thing what we started off doing 3 years ago was to create a national conference dedicating for this. It's oriented to municipalities and the experts working there. In designing the paths in a very modern way, and Vilnius is always the leader to show other cities what they are doing. And I think that it's also very important how we build our infrastructure. And we have very good example from different countries, not to repeat the same mistakes. And I hope we will do more of it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Agne. Łukasz, so Gdansk, who has been to Gdansk before? It is a fantastic city. It is the host of Velo City 2025. Mark your calendars, 10th to the 13th of June, 2025. And the European Cyclist Federation, we selected Gdansk to be the host because we were so impressed by the story, by what they were doing there, their enthusiasm for cycling and everything they were doing to support it at all levels. So, Łukasz, tell us a bit about what you've been doing, and also give us a bit of the wider context in Poland about how that fits in.
Okay, thank you, Jill, for this perfect introduction. Thanks, really. We are prepare infrastructure at the beginning. Many years ago, we started working with infrastructure to improve cycling, paths, cycling lanes in Gdańsk. And this is the process which is ongoing process. Every time, every city needs to improve the infrastructure, build new fast highways, and made modernization of the old one. This is the process, this is the one step. The second step is education and promotion of cycling. In Gdańsk, we organize this kind of event like a Cycling May campaign, which is organized now in many Polish cities. 250,000 of children use bikes traveling to school. In Gdańsk is 50% of pupils which take a bike to school during May. It's really big data which show us that it's possible. And year by year we try to repeat this campaign. For the older people, for the workers, we try to organize campaign Bike to Work, which is organized between September and November. So we show that you can use bike even the weather isn't so perfect in Gdańsk. And this is the next step, which show that it's convenient, it's nice, and it's really useful when you got distance to work. Shorter than 7 kilometers, bike is the fastest option to use it. And now we are going to try show the future, what will be in Gdańsk. Velocity is one of the elements, because we believe that we need to create big things to create a better city policy in cycling. And for example, Velocity, to organize Velocity, we need to implement a municipal bike system, which is first in Europe a battery swapping system, which works. Because in Stockholm it wasn't perfect implement. In Gdańsk it works, and it also gives opportunity to use bike between two terraces. Gdańsk is a city which isn't flat. We've got one terrace next to the sea, and the second terrace higher, 100, 150 meters below sea level. No, below. Above sea level. Sorry, it was too big depression. No, so we try to create electric bike system, and it worked. It showed that many people is ready to use a bike to get shorter distance, but up. In next step, we are trying to also in Poland create a national cycling strategy. It's very important together with
So Poland is one of the countries in Europe that doesn't yet have a national cycling strategy, but
there was election last year, and together with Jill we talk about this in Łódź in Congress, New Mobility Congress, and we start to work at this kind of program. We also now try to implement. I got email today that we've got a new program related with e-bike refundation. For example, if inhabitants of Poland will buy electric bike, they've got a refundation about 1,000 euros. So it's a really big thing, and I think that it shows that electric bikes can change also a modal split towards sustainable transport, and this is the way how we can also improve the situation for cycling companies in our market. Our behavior, our policy show that we are open to develop not only when we talk about cycling policy, but always on the private sector.
Thank you. Okay, super. No, I invite you all to come to Gdansk and see it for yourself. What I'd also like to talk about with this panel is how important is this interplay between the local, the regional, the national level, the transnational level, EU or beyond. How do you see that, and how does that really encourage and help the growth in cycling that we need to see? I mean, Mark, what's your perspective on that?
Local is so important, and I'll use Lyon as an example. Lyon, back in 2014, created 3 new bridges, a new active mode tunnel, connecting the urban centre to suburban areas. There was an increase of, I think, over 500 kilometres to over 1,000 kilometres of infrastructure built at a local level that during up to, I think it was 2016 to today, is a 54% increase in ridership. That wouldn't have happened without that active local level politicians wanting that to happen within the city of Lyon. So it's incredibly important.
Yeah, okay. And Marie-Céline, you probably have a perspective on, does Lyon do that all by itself? How, how are they supported?
I'm really happy that Mark spoke about Lyon, because we have a representative of Lyon Metropole here today, and we have many companies coming.
Hello, Lyon.
coming from this area, because what is really important, as I mentioned before, is really to have this holistic approach. Not only Lyon has developed cycling paths, but also a cluster which is called CARA, where you can have companies working on the cycling industry, because everybody knows that we are facing an ecological transition. But if you have your bikes coming from all around the world, what is the point? So you need also to build cluster, and you need to think how you can recycle and have a circular economy on cycling. Otherwise, you miss, I think, what is the philosophy also of this kind of mobility. And we have in France this good, I think, work together between the national level, where we have this cycling policy with a will to have a new industrial sector on the whole, and different cluster that bring together all the different aspects of the cycling industry. And what is really, I think, interesting to do is to work on pools of talents, because you cannot imagine having cycling industry or having people cycling if you don't have people to repair, if you don't have people even to train. So you have to think the whole industry together, and that's what we do at the national level, and we hope to have that, of course, at the European level.
Yeah. It seems to be working very well, so thank you for that work. Agne, so Lithuania held the presidency of the International Transport Forum. this past year, and I know that you're very active also at the EU level in the things that have been done for cycling. I mean, how do you see how that helps the developments in your country, and then also, you know, how from a national perspective you can also help the local developments?
So to be honest, if we speak about my country, so everything started from the leadership. Because before, well, cycling was not a priority, but together with the minister, we tried to kind of put everything on the wheels, you know, just to leave it for the next generations. And I think we did it quite well, because it's not only strategies, it's not only plans, but it's also money there. So I think this is very important. It was never before. Now, speaking about European level, I think what is very important, because even on the European level, and even if we have like such a good examples in France, you know, in Poland, we did not have like European strategy. And why do we need strategy on European level? It's very important for the industry as well, but obviously if we want to enhance the number of cyclists, we need to have a strategy which would be also supported by finances. So because cycling was always a part of urban mobility planning, so it was also always a part of some kind of plan. So we did not distinguish it and dedicate the resources for it. So I think declaration is one step towards new European Commission, new policies, requirements, subsidies maybe to enhance Green Deal in this area. Why it is very important? Not because only of Green Deal initiative and objectives, but it's also one of the easiest infrastructure and cheapest, I would say, to build, to suggest something for the citizens. And I talk from Lithuania, Poland maybe perspective. If you need to build like railways or any other infrastructure, it's really, really, really difficult, and it takes a lot of time. This is faster, cheaper, and this is an alternative. So I'm also a member of the Vilnius Council. So whenever I meet the mayor, I'm saying one mayor started to create a network. You can finish, and you can create an alternative when we have those very difficult discussions about low emission zones, because all the change starts in within the municipalities, and they have to make very tough decisions for the next couple of years within the whole Europe. And because of political cycles, it's sometimes really difficult to do it. So I think that it will also encourage them, you know, to build finally the network for cycling, and then you know, it creates more opportunities for cyclists. And one good example leads to another good example, and it creates some as an ecosystem. Now, speaking from the business perspective, Lithuania is already on the, you know, on the map. In a couple of years in Lithuania, there will be like around 1 million bicycles built. So I think this is very important also to create the whole ecosystem and to show the capacity, and to show that Lithuania could be not only the country which tries to, you know, to do best for their health and use different, you know, options of traveling, but as well we can show something together, you know, on the European and global scale.
Thank you. Okay, Łukasz, I want to ask you, what's the importance of a national cycling strategy in Poland for Gdansk? I mean, I've seen a video where mayors of all kinds of cities in Poland were basically, you know, in a little spot telling the government, we want a national cycling strategy.
Yes, because we create lobby group, of course, with our friends, with other municipalities, because it's important from our point of view. Like you said, government give money, but connection between cities, it's not by bicycle, it's just touristic roads in general. But bicycle is mostly useful accommodation, transportation mode in the cities. So in our opinion, in national strategies, we should get financing for the municipality bicycle paths and lands or highways, bicycle highways. This is one of important points. The second one is e-bike and bonuses when you use it, when you buy it. It's really modern now because everybody can use e-bikes. This is the second point. And the third point is law which show us that all of infrastructure investment can be do faster than normally because of owners. When we've got some owners of, for example, fields, we can just sign one paper and take the field for the bike lanes or paths. So this is the most important points when we're talking about national strategy. Yes, and also education. Sorry, we should talk with our pupils about sustainable transport ways, not just for about the signs in our landscape, but also why important is to use a bike, why we should choose tram or bus or go by foot. This is sometimes problem in countries like Poland, Lithuania, that individual cars are the symbol of status in society, and this is the problem that we should create.
So it's changing behaviors and attitudes.
Yes, cycle chic is one of my favorite words, and we should do this. Use bicycle when we wearing suit dresses and show that it's normal.
Well, I'd love to be able to talk longer, but we've run out of time. I do want to congratulate all the panelists for all the work that they've been doing to encourage growth in their markets and to support that whole idea of growth and the implementation of it. So thank you very much to our panelists. Yeah, round of applause. Thank you. And we look forward to what's to come.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, and special thanks to you, Jill, for the great moderation. Thank you.
So.
Wir switchen nun zurück auf
We switch back to German and now look into a topic which is called cycling cultural battle, because despite all the success stories with the bicycle, we have to notice when we take stock that within the society, bicycles aren't not being taken very seriously. We look at the headlines in the media. Very often we see it in comparisons with cars, where it is being said that we can't keep up. So the bicycle as a true alternative, it seems that it hasn't been fully considered in such a way in society. But we want to talk about how we can actually win this culture war and what narratives we have to create so that bicycles are taken seriously. And I'm happy to have this talk together with Jörg Matthijs, Dr. Nadja Papert, and Matthias Riegal. A round of applause. Great to have you here. Many thanks for enriching ourselves with information. We want to talk about culture war, and first of all, I'd like to introduce you. I'll start by you, Nadja, because you're not only a passionate gravel cyclist, but also marketing head with Jobrad. Over 1.5 million bicycles have hit the road thanks to Jobrad over the past 15 years. I think that is a great figure, and maybe you can report on your day-to-day activities. What are you doing specifically? You mentioned the keyword here. Jobrad is the company which has brought people onto the bikes, 1.5 million over 15 years. I've been on board for the past 3 years in charge of market communications. What is my job? Of course, making sure that with our communication we contribute to our success, but with Jobrad, it's also important that communication supports the purpose of our company and expresses it. So for us, this simply means that we want to invite as many people as possible to use the bike in their day-to-day activities, the Dienstrad, of course, but also other mobility services that we offer. And you've been very successful in that. Yes, it works quite well. Maybe an additional sentences also on the topic of our panel. To us, it is very normal that we are not only an economic player, but also a social player by contributing to changing mobility in our society. Jörg, I want to continue with you. You're Chief Communication Officer with Riese and Müller. I just want to call you high-class e-bike. So would you, you would apparently underline this. You're also communication expert. As chief communication expert, that's clear. What is the task that you set for your company? Well, being a social player, contributor is also very important to us. We do not only want to build bicycles and sell them, we really want to contribute to this mobility change or transition, want to showcase that we need a different form of mobility. We have celebrated our 31st anniversary. The founding fathers founded the company with a folding bike in order to bring mobility forward, and this is still our story. We just want to integrate the vehicle, the bicycle, into day-to-day activities. So there's a real narrative behind that, and you tried to make this come across. Okay, great. Matthias, you are from political communication, and you are a political expert and founder and managing director of the consulting firm for political and social subsidiaries. And you said you are a target group and a nerd as well, so you know the topic quite well. That's what you said up front, and you are also the target group. I wanted to mention this here. So what do you stand up for specifically in your professional activity? So first of all, welcome. I'm still a bit a newcomer in the bicycle industry, so basically I'd like to be a nerd. So when you come here, everything's very fancy. And yesterday I actually thought, I didn't imagine it to be like this. This is my first Eurobike, maybe I should mention this. Welcome. In autumn 2022, I was invited to speak about the social role of the bicycle, invited by Zukunft Fahrrad, Future of the Bicycle. And ever since, sort of a small bicycle relationship has entered my life, where I have a look at it and wonder, why do the politicians don't understand what's happening here, don't see the size, the scale, and the force behind it, and I try to change this. Very cool. Thanks for your brief introduction so that everyone knows who you are. And I think with the three of you, we have three great perspectives represented here. First of all, the manufacturer, then we have a service provider, and then the political perspective. This is how I would like to categorize you here. And maybe let's kick off with the first question. How can we create new narratives and positive stories around the use of the bicycle so that we can manage that the bicycle is considered a symbol of freedom and active mobility, and established in such a way so that not only the nerd community thinks so, but everyone? You can get started if you want to. Let me sketch this out a bit. When I entered the bicycle industry in 2017, I saw an industry which was very much attached to this product, loved the product, but was very bad at communicating this externally, telling a narrative, this emotional connectivity that is also created by the automotive industry, selling this dream of freedom. The bicycle industry hadn't done so for a long time because we're so much focused on the product and didn't really talk about the benefits in the right way. I think we have undergone quite a pretty good transformation, also due to the e-bike having created an opportunity for a different view onto the product. All of a sudden, providers such as Jobrad create opportunities now for more simple access to e-bikes and changing my daily life, actually. And the more visibility it has, the more we can actually press ahead with it. That as a short summary. I would actually have a slightly different view on this, because you asked, how do we turn the bicycle into a symbol of freedom and new mobility? And one might actually say it's quite simple. We set the scene for such a symbol, but I think we should actually not turn the bicycle into a symbol of something special. We should make it into the new normal. The new norm, because when we look at all the innovations also here at the trade show, it very often talks about bicycles as a leisure thing, as a sports thing. In politics, sometimes we see it as a symbol for the enemy of the automotive industry. So very often attributes are being given to the bicycle which create delineation to others. People saying, "Oh, I don't want to get rid of my car, and I'm not a sports person," etc. And this prevents the bicycle from hitting the center of society, which is where we want to see it, so that more and more people actually get attached to this sort of mobility. So we should, in terms of our narrative, rather try to sort of normalize the bicycle, make it the new norm. And this in the context of a bit of diversity, saying, okay, it's out there anyway, so maybe I can also chime in. Actually, that's what I wanted to say. By systems such as Jobrad, these narratives are being told. And just very briefly, I mentioned this yesterday already at another panel. The cargo bike, for example, is also politically abused by saying, okay, there's something new. This is going to sort of going to be something that takes away something. So it is sort of the new tramp stamp of the 90s, and I actually take a bird's view first. Look at the inventory. Where do I want to get to? Freedom here. And where am I actually coming from? And where I'm coming from is the bicycle did not symbolize freedom. The car stood for freedom, power, economic power. And the bicycle stood for leisure activities. When you look on Google for images, you'll see sunrises and stuff. So it's very far from normality. And then at the same time, it is sort of the most normal thing. When you have 84 million bicycles in a country, that's basically more than the number of citizens here. And basically, we invented the bicycle, and we're the world globally leading country. We have the leading trade show, and no A-level politician comes here. Then this is an issue. And this means that we're far from actually starting to talk about these narratives. I think we are still a long way from these narratives being understood, because the bicycle still is sort of in a niche. It is still sort of in this cute corner. Everybody tells an anecdote. Oh, I also take the bicycle sometimes. So everyone has got a small story to tell. Someone can speak about the bicycle being stolen at some point, but then you get to the table and you start talking about hard business facts, and the bicycle disappears all of a sudden, even though it could be there. And these industry surveys, facts and figures, the stories, that's important. What you just said, when you said normality, I think if we take these two stories together, I think people are actually further ahead. For them, it's no longer a political topic. The e-bike is a totally new market. It's a totally new means of transport. When we were talking about 10 million e-bikes, and this in a very quick time frame. We don't have to talk about charging infrastructure, etc. And then figures as published by ADFC that 72 million people still feel unsafe in a public transport when they use the bicycle. So on the roads, basically. That means I need to give them the opportunity that I can actually get a bit closer to freedom.
Let me tell you, it's interesting that the empiric usage of bikes of humans is further developed than the discourse. So this is an astonishing finding. Maybe we should say we should make the bike visible via the products and make it a political subject, so that it can become a common good and no longer be politicized. Maybe this cultural battle helps us to a certain extent. As a result, we have friction. And with friction, you create a tension and you can position it. But we need the opposite images, like football sponsoring, and the national team from Poland rides a bike through Hanover, or in Herzogenaurach, our boys take the bike from the training camp to the stadium or to the city. So that really radiates something. But we also need, I lived in Mainz for a long time, and some people used the bike before, but as soon as they had someone in politics responsible for bikes. They had traffic lights for bikes, and there were safe and wider bike lanes. And since that, more people have started to ride bikes in the city. So you need a role model, someone who really can act as an example. Also in the political arena, in the municipal area, you need to talk to people more. Ask them, what could we change to make it more visible? Because people want to go by bike, and the main reason why they don't feel safe. If I was a father of a big family and put my kids in the cargo bike in the back, and then you have an accident, people would love to use a bike, but they don't feel safe and are not seen in the city. Oftentimes. Well, with Future Bike and Job Bike, we do briefings for members of parliament, national parliament or municipal parliaments, and we have the feeling they don't really know how big the industry is and how significant it is. And I go as far as that the real traffic and transport revolution was not the €9 ticket, but these were the pop-up bicycle path during COVID, because as soon as the infrastructure is there, it's used intensively. But that was forgotten. And in the big cities, okay, all of a sudden they said, here it worked, and let's continue that. And as there were efforts before to change the roads and streets, so from the pop-up path, they really turned it into a permanent bike lane. But in many cities and municipalities, we are far away from that. We need pioneers. The members of parliament, I mean, I told you, you're a member of parliament in Hesse, wherever you are in Hesse, Mühlteich or whatever. I mean, he doesn't know that you have 800 employees. But we should tell this person. Have I understood it properly? Without political support, we cannot win this cultural battle. Without political support, we can't win this cultural battle, or can we do without that political support? Okay, politics plays an important role. They set the framework, infrastructure was mentioned, cycle paths and lanes and traffic planning. You need political willingness and reliable investment. And on the other hand, you need something like future images, ideas of the future. You know, an image of the mobility of the future in which the bike plays an important role. This needs to be offered, and people can feel attached to it. And that's a question to you. Maybe politics asks a lot about infrastructure, this rational approach, building something here and there. But the attractive pictures, they really can achieve something. What do you think? It's like handball versus football. Football is liked. I mean, that's clear. And it's having the power of the world in this country. If you are there, you need not think about envy or worry about anything. But handball, you are a cool kid, rather. And to transfer this, making this relevant, you know, they struggled also in the public TV to be shown there as well, the handball players. I mean, you need to do lobby work. But without manufacturers, without the bikers themselves, it wouldn't work. So it's holistic, you know. There is not the one and only politics. It's only us, all of us together. We are society together, and we are political. And for that reason, I say that this cultural battle is really a good thing. And it's good that the bike is understood politically. That's a good point. Jörg, let me come back to you and potential marketing strategies and campaigns. How should it look like in concrete terms so that we can push the bike more? Do we need a campaign from total industry that we can communicate we at the bike? The answer might not be liked. I say no, quite clearly. Campaigns that try to present the product in a positive way will fail. I don't know of any campaign that has managed to really create this excitement. We discussed it before. I saw it with my parents. I come from a small city. They always use the car, and now they go by e-bike. 6 months ago, they exchanged the brake liners of their car because they didn't work any longer, as they didn't use the car any longer. So they learned that they can ride a bike for 10 kilometers without any sweat. So That's really important. So the strategy rather should be talk to your municipal politicians, interfere in society. As you said, we are all the political space. And we need to make sure that it becomes visible, that roads become safer in front of schools and kindergartens. There shouldn't be any parents' taxis any longer. You know, you have to fight for that as an individual. It's not helpful to have a poster there that says it's super to go by bike. It's rather the point that you should do something and become interfered. You are the narrative. That's much better invested. According to the marketing strategies, you know, the question is, what's good advertisement for the bike? Good advertisement for the bike is an advertisement that doesn't urge people or manipulate people, but which is rather relevant, and that's the problem already. And you know, it has a bad reputation. There's much too really too much advertisement, and often we get negative messages. Most people have ad blockers nowadays. Most people avoid advertisement. What shall we do? I mean, we need to become relevant. Advertisement doesn't help. And that really fits well to what you've just said. All around the bike, we can make offers and regard and present the bike as a problem solution in everyday life, not another consumption product. Maybe you have back problems, you sit too long in the car, maybe you should rather go by bike, or you are in the traffic jam and you hate it. Maybe with your bike it's easier, particularly if you have to take your kids somewhere. So this is the approach, solving a problem, and that's what we need in our area. For me, the most important point, it's not about the bike as such. And for that reason, let me close the cycle. I mean, people are much more advanced. No matter where I go. At the very first lecture, I was talking about my sister, and my sister bought herself an e-bike, and early in the morning, 5:30, to hospital. She drives 9 kilometers to her hospital because there is a bike path, because there is no car park for her in front of the hospital, and petrol, gas is so expensive. It's not that she wants to protect the climate, but she does it because it's practical for her. But you would never reach her with a fancy bike. She wouldn't walk around the bike as I did yesterday. There is one booth with trailers in my favorite colors. She would not be interested. I mean, she says, okay, there is a bike and I can use it. I don't need a second car, but I can cycle the 9 kilometers with my e-bike very easily. Okay, there is a hidden insight. It's also fitness, but she doesn't say that it's fitness. She just says, okay, I don't have a car park there, and gas is so expensive, so I go by bike. But it's not about the bike. You wouldn't reach her with advertisement for a cool bike. So your sister discovered the bike as an option that helps her in her everyday life and solving problems that she had with the car before. And that really is important for the cultural better. And the e-bike is the game changer because you can start at a different footing. I would like to know, by way of conclusion, very shortly, because time is up already, when can we say that we have won the cultural battle? Nadja? I think when it has become powderized, so once the delimitations, the borderlines are no longer there, and that bikes have become self-understood in this attractive diversity that we can use. But you need good ideas and a lot of creative cooperation between the different actors. Matthias? I'm against the end of a cultural battle. I think it will need some time, but I live to see that change is happening, but it will take a bit longer. Not to misunderstand me, it's not possible that a minister president says the future of Germany is not the cargo bike. No, cannot be that he or she says that. And we shouldn't have too much polarizing, and that the bike or the cargo bike is the opposite of the SUV. But still we should keep this friction. There should be always some kind of friction all around the bike. Okay, thank you very much. That was super inspiring to have you here on the panel. I learned a lot, and I hope you as well. Everyone should nod now or give a hand of applause. So, in that sense, thank you very much to you. I wish you a good trip back home, and should we not see again here on the Eurobike, thank you very much. See you. Now, we keep this solution-oriented spirit, and we would like to look at the question how to win new masses for cycling. That will be the most important question of the next panel discussion. And on stage, I'm happy to welcome the head of section near mobility at the Hessian Ministry for Economy, Energy, Traffic, Living and Rural Areas, Dr. Klaus Dapp. A hand of applause for him. You all come at the same time. Let me go on. Partner and head of the McKinsey Center for Future Mobility, Kerstin Heinecke, and Tagesspiegel background editor, Jutta Meyer. All right, nice that you are here. Thank you that you have taken the time to discuss with us how we can attract new people, new masses for cycling. And as you all have dedicated to mobility in your professions, let me start briefly to ask you what enthuses you so much with your personal job, and why have you started to deal with mobility? And maybe Mrs. Meyer, you can start. Mobility, this is something that is important for everyone personally. Everyone